As good a player Virat Kohli has been for India in Test cricket over the last 10 years or so, well, it can be said very rightly that his returns in the longest format of the game of late haven't really been up to the mark. He has hardly got any hundreds since 2019 in Test cricket, and at the very same time, those utility knocks, all those useful innings are also missing. When we take a look at the recently concluded Test series against Bangladesh and New Zealand also, Kohli struggled against spin, and at the very same time, he could not really get those big scores. There is a growing concern about his form now, with the likes of Sunil Gavaskar and even the casual fans also saying that Kohli's form is turning out to be a big issue for the Indian cricket team, and Ricky Ponting has also echoed the similar sentiments. Well, let's take a look what he has said about Kohli and India's spin troubles ahead of the all-important Border Gavaskar trophy. Well, Ricky Ponting, he said that, I read that Kohli has only hit 2 to 3 test hundreds in the last 5 years or so, starting from 2019. That's a big concern. Any top order batter with such a record won't be a part of any team. And if we have to focus on the important keywords that Ricky Ponting has said, let's just go by the last statement. Any top order batter with such a record won't be a part of any team. And Kohli's obviously average in the last 5 years or so has been even less than 35. There have been those big knocks that came just in the Ahmedabad test against Australia in the Border Gavaskar trophy of 2023, wherein he scored 100, and also there was another 100 that came against West Indies shortly after the World Test Championship final of 2023. But ever since then, well, there haven't been those big knocks. He played those useful innings against South Africa earlier this year. He missed the 5 test series against England due to personal reasons, could not really get going against Bangladesh, and against New Zealand, well, he was all over the place. He was troubled by the likes of Mitchell Santner, Ajaz Patel and Glenn Phillips, and to an extent, he did have an issue against the Pacers also. But that's where Ricky Ponting feels that Kohli probably starts to, needs to get those big scores now, because if you look by his recent record, well, if any other batter would have scored about just 2 or 3 test hundreds in the last 5 years or so, well, he would not have even retained his place in any test team across the globe. And that's a big comment, obviously. Moving on, he also said one more thing about Kohli. I've said it before about him. Don't ever question the greats of the game. If there's a time for him to turn it around, it would be the Border Gavaskar trophy. And obviously, that's where it all began for Kohli. He hit his maiden test 100. That was against Australia in Adelaide during India's tour down under in 2011 and 2012. Then in 2014, he had a remarkable test series, scoring 693 runs at an average of over 86. Then in 2018 and 2019 season, he hit a beautiful 100 at Perth in tough conditions. And in the previous tour of Australia, he missed 3 test matches, but then he played a utility knock of 70 odd in Adelaide. Well, moving on, Ponting also had his say about India's spin troubles. He said that it seems as though the skill of the modern Indian batters, maybe for the likes of a certain Shubman Gill, to an extent maybe Yashasvi Jaiswal and the likes of Sarfaraz Khan, who have scored those big hundreds in the Ranji format, maybe their skill of playing spin is probably not what it really used to be. And if he's focusing more on what it used to be, he's telling about the likes of VVS Lakshman, Saurav Ganguly, Sachin Tendulkar and Virender Sehwag, to an extent Gautam Gambhir, also India's head coach, who played spin beautifully against the likes of Sri Lanka, Australia when they toured India in the late 2000s and even the early 2010s. And that's where I think India's spin prowess was brilliant. But now what has really turned out to be in India's case is that they have really struggled against spin, and more often than not, they have required their lower middle order to bail them out of those tough situations. Ponting also said that maybe, just maybe, it is the Indian Premier League that the younger players are really learning the game that way, rather than the way that the players did 15 or 20 years ago. And how did the players really improve their game 15 or 20 years ago? Well, it was obviously about going back to the basics, going back to playing domestic red ball cricket, be it any country, India, Australia, Sri Lanka or South Africa. If you really had to sharpen your skills to improve your game, you really needed to go back to domestic cricket. But now, the more importantly, the focus of the younger players is to feature in the IPL. That's where obviously you can rub your shoulders with the greats of the game, but then you don't really have time to improve or make the necessary course correction. Now, obviously, India aren't really in good form as far as their recent test results are concerned. They lost to New Zealand 3-0, while they did have a good outing against Bangladesh. But then, come the high-octane Border Gavaskar Trophy, India would need most of their players to be ready and in their top-notch form. And that's where the practice sessions that they are going to have in Perth are going to be really holding key to their chances. Do you think that Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma can really strike back into their top form before the Australia series? You can let us know your thoughts in the comment section, and don't forget to subscribe to Sports Today for all the exciting updates and analysis from the sporting world. Until then, on behalf of my producer Shivam, it's Siddharth Gulati saying goodbye.